Welcome back to Streets and Eats, and this is episode 114, our first timer's guide to the Oktoberfest.
It's that time of year.
Oh my goodness, it's crisp outside, the beer tastes good, and Oktoberfest is the iconic festival that everybody wants to go to in Germany with good reason.
It's a must.
It's a must.
Even though you'll be going with everybody in Germany.
Everybody in Germany and everybody
outside of
who's
Germany.
coming from Germany. I think it gets, I can't remember, but 80 million visitors
Millions.
or something. 8 million, 80 million.
I did read 17.5 million liters of beer
That's mind-boggling,
every
isn't
year.
it? I got to tell you, the beer is good. If
It is
you're a
good.
beer drinker, it's good. Even if you're not a beer drinker, I have lots of friends who are more inclined to drink wine than they are beer. They got good wine too, so
Yeah.
it's not a problem.
It's not
Although
just
I
beer.
would suggest you have at least one Oktoberfest beer. We have been how many times? We've been going to the Oktoberfest for
Well, I can't
40
even count
years.
how many times. We used to collect the souvenir mugs.
we used to collect things.
That was getting out of
As
hand.
you can see, we don't really collect things anymore because,
Well, becoming nomads meant
yeah,
dialing down.
we've downsized.
Now we're kind of settling a little bit, so we're starting to collect a little bit more. But some things you just can't ever get rid of.
That's right. That's right.
We've had that Hofbrau mug. I
Probably
think
for 40 years.
before you met me, you bought it.
Yes, exactly. So, and we've been married almost 40 years. So that's a long time. 41 years, 42
Okay,
years.
so I have the trivia question.
Oh, okay.
I will try to stump
Can
you.
he trip me up? Let's see.
No peeking.
No peeking. We have to cheat. We're at that age where we have
Yeah,
to
I
actually
can't.
put it on the computer.
My memory's
So
not
that
going to
means
work for
I
that.
can't look at the computer. A little behind the scenes.
Okay, you probably know part of this answer. It's kind of like a three-parter
Oh goodness.
or two-parter, I guess. What is the official opening act?
The tapping of the keg.
You're right. I knew you would know that. I knew you would know that. I mean, I think
That was
most
easy.
people who know anything about the Oktoberfest know that it starts with the tapping of the first keg.
The
Who
tapping of
taps
the
it?
keg. The mayor.
The Lord Mayor. That's right. Okay, now here's the trickier part.
Okay. I knew it was going to get a little bit hard.
What is the record number of taps? Like the fewest number of taps of strikes
To get it tapped.
to get it tapped.
I'm going to say lucky number 7.
2 was the
2. Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
yeah, and the Lord Mayor
It
who
would take me about 22 at least.
probably the Lord Mayor who did that one actually was able to do it pretty much the whole time he was the mayor. So several times he was up there. Whack, whack, the beer is flowing. O's up.
They breed some good beer drinkers probably in Munich.
Yeah.
I think that's probably
Okay, what's
a
the
thing.
record for the most strikes to get the tap?
Oh, well, I'm going to go higher than 22.
You were pretty close with your estimate.
7?
19 is
19. Wow.
how embarrassing, right? Whack, 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 whack. Yikes.
That was a newbie.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And I'm sure he was Lord Mayor for more than 1 year, but it had only happened 1 year. I guess after that, he was like, I'm practicing this skill.
Yeah, well, that was the highest number.
So where did we see the official tapping of the keg for Oktoberfest?
We saw it.
Yeah, we were there for it.
We've been so many times. What do you mean, where did we see it? I think the only time I remember seeing it is in front of the Hofbrau house tent, probably around 1987.
Oh, I don't remember ever seeing it at the Oktoberfest ever, but we may have in the early 80s. I just don't remember it. I was thinking of something a little bit more recent, but we did an Oktoberfest in Turkey, and it wasn't the Lord Mayor. It was the ambassador, the German ambassador to Turkey, that tapped the first keg. And it was all held in conjunction with the official Oktoberfest and everything. So it's pretty cool.
I'm sure. I mean, Germany is so known for it that I'm sure during that month there are Oktoberfests all over the world. And I got to say, the one in Ankara, Turkey that we attended was amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty authentic. They
shipped in the official beer
and the
from the
Oompa band.
Oktoberfest and band.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
it was
a
cool.
good time.
We had a good time.
And they
We
tapped the
always have a
keg.
good time. Yeah.
So yeah, that's the official opening. But we've seen the parade a couple of times.
We've done the parade. So here's my thing about festivals in Germany and probably Europe in general. A tip I have is the first official opening day, which isn't always the day that the fair opens, but the day of the official opening, there's usually some pomp and circumstance. And that's the cultural bit that goes back for generations. For the Oktoberfest, we're talking back to the 1800s, right? So to me, it's not imperative to do it. You're going to have a good time no matter what. But in order to really, I think, get that whole cultural experience, it's such a good idea. If you can, try to hit the official ceremonies, the official opening ceremonies.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that parade is really cool because it's got the draft horses pulling the
beer carts.
The beer carts with the wooden kegs all stacked up on it. And it's very festive. There's, of course, bands playing.
Everybody's wearing their Trachtenmoden, their dirndls, and their lederhosen. I believe some people are drinking beer. Surprise, surprise.
Probably, yes.
And, they have the local bands and the local I don't know, football clubs. Everybody you can think of.
Of course, the Lord Mayor coming to tap the keg.
It's good. It's good fun. It's a great cultural parade. And I think everybody should do it.
Yeah, that parade
That's the first Saturday of the Oktoberfest.
First Saturday. It starts, I think, at 12 o'clock or somewhere around. We'll drop a link to the best website where you can get like specific information for the current year and everything. It's oktoberfest.de. That's not too hard to remember, but we'll put it in the show notes anyway.
That's right.
Okay, so this is a first timer's guide. So let's back up a little bit. We'll definitely share some stories from our Oktoberfest visits and some tips and hopefully maybe even a few like bits of advice to help you along the way.
Let's do it. Okay, so I think the first thing that we should do is just, why is there an Oktoberfest? And when is the Oktoberfest? I think the funniest thing about the Oktoberfest is the when.
Yeah.
Because it is a little tiny bit in October.
A very little bit.
The very last week is in October. It ends the first weekend in October. And it's a 3-week festival that starts in mid-September, like the third week in September.
It's the first Saturday after the 15th of September.
Well, there you go.
And it ends on the first Sunday of October.
That's right.
Although, this is another little tidbit. I almost put this in my trivia question. Although there are some years where it extends past that Sunday. Do you know why?
No.
No clue, right?
No clue.
There is a Bavarian holiday that lands on the 3rd of October.
Oh, I know. It's not a Bavarian. It's a German holiday.
A German holiday that lands on the 3rd of October.
Reunification of Germany.
And if that happens to fall on a Monday,
so they'll
it'll
go
extend through Monday. And if it happens to fall on a Tuesday,
they'll go through Tuesday. Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the history?
Okay. So it did originally happen in October. So it has good reason for being called the Oktoberfest. It was a celebration of the marriage of he was Prince Regent Ludwig at the time, the first, and Teresa. And Teresa from Saxony. She was a princess from Saxony, I believe. You know how they like to join the houses together with a marriage and anyway.
They did. I don't know if they still do, but
so there was big festivities. Horse racing actually was on the docket that day. So they were out in a big field of Wiesen.
A Wiesen, a field.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it was a huge party in October. I think it's October 17th of 1810. Yes, I do have notes.
Yeah, but I knew it was early 1800s.
But yeah, we knew it. Yeah. Yes. And it just became a tradition to hold a party there. That field ended up being called the Wiesen. And that just got shortened down to De Wiesen.
De Wiesen. Yeah. That's interesting. I didn't.
Which is called today. Now, more information. It was always held in October until like late 1800s, 1870s timeframe, where they decided that, it's pretty damn cold in October.
The weather's a little bit nicer
especially by the end of October. So maybe we should shift this a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's when it started moving into September.
And I have to say, except we went one time, I don't know, probably about 8 years ago or so, and it rained. And I think that's the only time I've had any bad weather. For the most part, September in Munich is pretty nice. Now, it will rain on and off, but I mean, it's pretty nice.
Bavaria is beautiful in September. It's a great time to go.
It's a beautiful
and
time.
You get the added bonus if you go from the 15th on of being able to go to the Oktoberfest. But yeah, it's a beautiful time of year. Maybe my favorite. Is it my favorite time of year in Germany?
There's lots of good times of year.
I have to say it is.
But it is definitely my favorite time, the fall. I love the fall in general, but especially in Germany, because it's not just the Oktoberfest. There's fests all over the country. Harvest festivals. It's a very
wine festivals.
Common time. Wine festivals, wine harvesting. Just beautiful, beautiful time to be here, and in the surrounding area as well.
Okay, so some practical information.
Let's do that
for first timers.
I think there's a couple of things people always want to know. How do you get there? Where should I stay? I'm going to tell you that if you make the decision to go to the Oktoberfest, let's say in September or August or even March, it might be too late.
It might be too late
to get good accommodation. So what we have done, and it works out for a couple of reasons, is we have stayed in a completely different town that is connected by public rail.
Yeah.
And then we don't have to worry about parking. We're not dealing with the prices that are astronomical in the city because
the prices have gone
8
up.
million visitors coming that they're going to, make some money off of, and with good reason. So I think that that's a good way to do it. You don't need to be near the Oktoberfest. It's very well connected by public transportation. It's easy to walk to basically from the downtown area. And
those trains are going to get you back and forth pretty quickly. I mean, you say a different town, but really the different towns are all part of Munich. Everything's just connected on the outskirts. And the U-Bahn and the S-Bahn all go that far. So you're still in the Munich public transportation network. The way we usually look for it is we'll look for something either at the end of one of the U-Bahns that has a stop right there, or the S-Bahn that has a stop right there, the streetcars or the subway. The U-Bahn is the subway, of course, and the S-Bahn is the streetcar, although they don't necessarily have to be underground or above ground. And so the S7 is the one that has a stop right there. It's at the Hackerbrücke, which gets you right into the Wiesn, into the festival grounds. Or the U-Bahns, of course, have stops at the Theresienwiese, which that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Schwanthalerhohe, they're both for the U4 and the U5. And also the S20 stops at the Heimeranplatz. So all those are good ones that can get you, like, from a direct link. Find a hotel that has a stop relatively close by, so it's within walking distance. Take the train in, go to the Oktoberfest, have a great time, take the train home.
Regardless, if you're thinking, hey, this sounds like a good idea, I want to go visit this. And honestly, it's one of those things, it should be on everybody's bucket list from around the world because it is that good of a festival. But start planning it now for 2025 or 2026, because then you can get some good accommodations.
Yeah.
And the same thing kind of goes for making reservations. Sure, you're going to eat while you're at the Oktoberfest, but you're not going to go to the Oktoberfest the whole time you're in Munich.
No.
And there's some great places to eat in Munich, and you might want to make some reservations for those places. Anyway, it's one of those things that you want to plan ahead for. Even though we have done it last minute, it's definitely doable last minute. Living here gives you that flexibility a little bit.
It does.
But if you're coming from outside the country, especially, plan it early.
Yeah. You put together a whole trip. You don't want to have it fall apart at the last minute. Definitely make those plans as early as you can. But if it is a last minute trip, definitely don't despair. There are things, especially on the outskirts, where you can just take a train right in. Okay. Another myth is that it's like a nonstop party. It does actually
feels like a nonstop party.
It does. Once you had a couple of big beers.
It only took me one on my first trip there.
Yeah.
The first time I went to the Oktoberfest, I was 22 years old. That was a long time ago.
Me too.
I was 22 years old, and I went on a little tour that one of the bases was running. So it was super cheap. We stayed in a little hotel outside the city, and then we had a bus. So, of course, the bus brought us in, dropped us off, and picked us up. I wouldn't necessarily suggest you need a tour to go to the Oktoberfest.
But that is actually not a bad option.
But this was just basically a transportation type tour anyway. And the point is, so they brought us to the Oktoberfest, which I do agree with, at about noon. And it was just winding up at about noon.
Yeah.
Because it opens at 10.
10 and 9 on the weekend days.
There's not a whole lot of people there. So it's a great time to go ride rides. It's a great time to go into the festival tents and stake your spot. There's good things about going early. But I got there about noon, sat down in a fest tent, ordered a Moss beer. One of those big steins is a Moss.
A liter of beer.
It's a liter.
It's a big beer.
It's a big beer. I'm 22. I don't think I'd had maybe, 5 beers prior to this in my entire life. I got to half done. I was loopy for the rest of the day.
It's pretty strong beer. It's like a 6.5%. Yeah. All of them, I should say. My first time, I think we went together.
Yeah.
And I think we did it in conjunction with a trip to Herrenchiemsee, one of the lakes, pretty far away from Munich, but still in that region, and just a beautiful place.
With a beautiful palace.
And there was a bus from there that took you into the Oktoberfest and then back to the hotel at the day. So, that's a good tip. If you are doing it last minute, you can always look for a tour or look for a hotel on the outskirts that offers transportation to and from, because that's a pretty regular thing, especially with the bigger ones. So that's really a good idea. There's also like a party train that goes from different starting points. Like Frankfurt has one. I think Stuttgart has one. Some of the bigger cities where there's a direct train to Munich and then back a little bit later than they would normally go, so that you can drive a train from another city and get to the Oktoberfest.
So you can't do that. They're going to be, when they say party train, it means two things. They're partying on the train and they're taking you to the party off the train.
And it can get a little bit messy. Those bus rides can get a little bit messy too.
Yeah, really messy.
On the way home.
I mean, like I said, it took me half a beer and I was sloshed for the rest of the day. I didn't keep drinking. Unfortunately, some people do keep drinking, and that can run into a few different piles of
sawdust
stuff.
That's where the sawdust comes in. Okay, so you're walking through a tent and looking for a table, or just walking through and checking out the decorations, because all the tents are just amazing.
Amazing.
Whether you sit there and have a beer or not, if you can get in and just look around, you'll be gobsmacked. But
that's something to do early in the morning.
Yeah, that's a reason to go early.
Go early and go to all the different tents and just sort of wander through them, take photos. There will still be people there, but it won't be crowded. They'll let you in. You'll be able to get in. And it's also a time where you could, if you decided, so I've been to all the tents and I really like this one. So you go back there, you usually still can find a seat at that point. They don't get really busy until, well, on the weekends,
noon.
Of course, earlier. But
they start picking
during
up.
the weekday, especially, you have pretty much at least until 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you guys, but I mean, you can get pretty sloshed on that beer pretty quickly. So
you can.
And they've got the Oompa bands going the whole time. It's fun. It's just fun.
So what I was saying was, as you're walking around the tents, if you see a pile of sawdust on the floor, don't step in it. Walk around it, because that just means that one of the partiers, one of the revelers, couldn't contain themselves, and a little bit of that beer came out the wrong end.
We don't need to get into any nasty. You know what it means.
So that's the quick fix, is to throw the sawdust on it and then clean it up as quickly as they can after that. But the tents are beautiful, and like you said, our best tip is to get there early. And I just walk around and enjoy the tents before you start drinking a beer.
And I think if you're a family, if you have kids with you, yes, go to the Oktoberfest. I would go to the parade, so I'd make sure I was there on that day. Then I'd go right over to the fest. So usually you can get in, you can walk around, you can do your rides, you can have a pretzel, you can have a beer if you want, you can have whatever. And the kids can have fun, and you can usually leave as long as you leave by, I mean, there's always a few exceptions, of course. There's people that are there just to get drunk. But they're not really the majority.
Yeah, it's true.
So you can
Everybody's
go
just
there.
there to have a good time.
They're there to have a good time, but they're not there to like get throwing up drunk. That's not their goal. So you can pretty much leave. You can go and have a good time, take your kids, have a good time, go on the rides, whatever, and leave and not have to worry about any of that untowardness.
Yeah. It can get pretty rowdy late at night. But like you said, it's more about people having fun. And yeah, they're drinking at the same time. And of course, you get a lot of younger adults, I guess, that maybe haven't quite figured out what their limits are. So they could get a little crazy, and there's just a lot of people there.
There's just a lot of people, yeah.
So that's a lot to deal with. And a lot of those crowds are heaviest, even late at night until closing. Okay, so another piece of advice is that it's like a lot of events nowadays. You can't just go in if you've got, like, let's say you've already checked out of your hotel and you're going to go to the Oktoberfest for the day, and then you're going to go on your travels to your next destination. You can't bring your suitcase,
no.
But you can check it at the entrance. So it's like €5. There's a left baggage area at a few of the entrances. They definitely will stop you if you have a bag basically bigger than a small day bag. They're going to stop you. They're going to look in whatever you have, of course, but if it's bigger than that, you're going to have to check it. So best thing is don't bring those bags.
Well, and I mean, yeah, don't bring them.
But if you don't have an option, then you do have the chance to have it stored there, and it's safe storage. This is Germany. It's going to be okay there. And €5 for the day really is not a bad storage fee. So don't sweat it too much, but try not to bring it if you don't have to. Okay, there's something new at the Oktoberfest. I say new, but it's new to us because we've been going to the Oktoberfest since the early 80s. And this came in around 2010. And I'm trying to think of what year we last went to the Oktoberfest.
I don't know. It was a couple of years ago.
But it was after 2010. But I think the year we went, this wasn't going on. It's called the Oideweisen. And it's like the old festival where they've kind of brought in more tradition and old rides, everybody has that favorite ride from when they were a kid going to carnivals. So they've got some of those old rides in this area. And it's in an area of the Oktoberfest that in the past had been used for farming equipment. I don't know if you remember that, but
I do.
There's always a part of the Oktoberfest that was dedicated to agriculture and tractors and all that farming equipment stuff, which was a really cool area to walk through.
But it didn't serve much purpose.
It didn't serve much purpose unless you were a farmer. So they still have that. But when they started this Oideweisen in 2010, it was the 200th anniversary of the Oktoberfest. And they thought it would be really a good idea to dedicate that section. It's a pretty good section to just the traditions and the history of Bavaria. So they kicked out the agricultural stuff and they took it over with that. And it was such a big hit that they decided they would keep it. But then they would share so they could still have the agricultural stuff like every fourth year. So depending on what year you go, you might get the chance to go to the Oideweisen. And there you're going to go like into the beer tent, and it's much more rustic. It's much more like late 1800s, early 1900s. They've got all the traditional dances going on. The other tents might have that as well. But generally speaking, the other tents are just going to have bands playing and music playing and maybe some dances going on. But here it's like throughout the whole Oktoberfest. So the slap dances, the guys in dirndls that are like smacking their knees and kicking each other in the butt, or the whip smackers, the whip snack. What do you call those? whippersnappers. The whippersnappers.
That's where that term
they're
came from.
performing. Yeah, and it's just a different feeling of the Oktoberfest. And that one, if just to walk in the Oktoberfest in general is free, but to go into the Ode Wiesen, I think it's €4 for anybody over 14. But with that €4, you get entry into some of the shows. So that's kind of cool.
It's really cool. Now we have to go back.
Yeah, we do have a reason to go back to the Oktoberfest. We just have to make sure we do it in a year when it's not the agricultural stuff, because we've seen all that.
Yeah, we've seen it. Been there, done that.
So I thought that was kind of a cool idea.
Okay, so we didn't really kind of introduce what the Oktoberfest is because I think everybody has a good idea of what it is. But one of the main things that you do is there's how many Oktoberfest beers? 7?
There are 6 official breweries.
6 official
that provide
breweries, and
beer.
they each have their own tent, and some have 2 tents. And these tents are massive with basically picnic table after picnic table, but they're not a picnic table like in the U.S. They're just long fest tables is what they call them in Germany. And you see them at every festival with a bar bench to sit on. And you pack as many people as you can on those benches. And I mean, we've been in all the beer tents. They're all fabulous. They've all got the big bar. You can see the women carrying the big masses of beers. Like they'll have 20 beers and take the pictures of that. And it's just so much fun. It's just so much fun.
The record is 27.
27 mass of
27 liters full of beer. That's a lot of weight.
Can you imagine how much it weighed? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And everybody's in a good mood. They are moving quickly. So it might seem like when you order a beer or something like they're being short with you, but they're not. They're just in a hurry because they've got 100,000 people in there. I mean, I don't know how many people. It's a lot. And they want to try and keep them as happy as possible. So they want to keep, the beer flowing. So don't take offense if they get a little short with you. It's just because they're tired or they're busy or
they want to keep moving. They want to get your order and they want to get it to you.
They don't have time. Just hold up your fingers. I need a beer. I need 2 beers. I need 3 beers. Do it and get over it. But anyway, I think you should definitely go to visit all the different tables. And here's a hint. We already said get there early and try and stake out a point because one of the big things is you can make reservations or you can go on a tour, and sometimes clubs will buy big tables and things like that.
That's right.
But they don't sell individual seats. You have to buy a table. So you can't go and say, I want to make a reservation for 2. It doesn't work that way.
No.
And you don't need to because, first of all of them have the inside tent and the outside beer garden. And the beer garden, you can't even make reservations for. Yeah. So you can always sit there. But the inside, if you get there early enough and you stake out a spot, I'm not sure if they're all marked reserved at like 6:00 or whatever time someone's coming in. But you can usually find a seat and you can even move around as people start filling up if you want to do that. But here's something that I think Americans are not used to doing. We don't share tables in the US.
That's actually very common. Even in restaurants
Even
in Germany.
Restaurants, it's common. In fact, just the other day, Jim and I took our grandson, AJ, to a restaurant in this little tiny village for lunch. And there was 2 empty tables, and we still waited for the lady to tell us where to sit down. And she sat us with another couple.
At a bigger table with another couple.
It was just kind of interesting. Yeah. And we had a 4-year-old with us. You would think she would have sat us by ourselves, but anyway.
So the same thing, it holds true at the Oktoberfest and any fest in general, where you have these big, long fest tables. They're usually all like lined up end to end. So you just, in practice, you have one very long table with all the benches on the sides. So you just want to find a place where you will fit.
Right. So you can say, is here frei? And that means, is this seat frei? And they'll say yes or no. But you can usually tell anyway. I mean, it's pretty obvious. If there's not a beer sitting there, then they're not waiting for anybody.
Yeah. If it's an opening on the bench and there's a space in front of the table,
go for it. The other thing to note is that you will have I know people who go with their huge tour group or their club, and it's the same people that they party with all the time. Yeah. If you go to a German festival, and the Oktoberfest is such a good example of this, everybody is in a good mood. Everybody wants to sit with you. everybody is going to have fun. So go sit in the middle of these people that you've never met before.
Yeah.
I guarantee
Make some new friends.
you are going to have the time of your life. And Jim and I have sat with people from all over the world at the Oktoberfest. One time we sat with a English actor. I'm not going to tell you who it was, but it was in the early 80s. And that was a lot of fun. And one time there was a Swiss lady who was decked out in her Trachten, which is different than Bavarian Trachten. And she was a lot of fun. She was just full of life, and she talked the whole time. And the Swiss German is very melodic and kind of, it sounds like they're singing all the time.
Much more musical.
And, yeah, it's really neat. So she was a lot of fun. But every time we've gone, we've sat with people we didn't know, and we've always had a good time. So please, make it a goal, actually.
Yeah.
Do it on purpose, because that's where you're going to have fun. It's going to be memorable, much more memorable. It'll be memorable anyway.
For sure. That's really the best tip, I think, is to find just an open seat and get your beer. Cheers the person next to you.
You order it when they come around. You don't have to get up and...
Yeah. They'll bring it to you. Cheers the people next to you on both sides. Cheers the people across from you. Just hold up your mug and say Prost, and
Eins, zwei, so far.
Smack the mugs together. Make some noise. Splash some beer.
That's right.
Have a good time.
Have fun. It's just too much
fun. So there are 6 breweries. I've got them all written down. We can talk about them later. Like you said, they each have their own main tent, but there are actually 17 large tents and 21 small tents.
There's a lot of tents.
So the larger tents, we're talking
large, huge,
like humongous. 4,000 to 7,000 people inside the tent, and then another 1,000 to 3,000 in beer gardens around the outside of the tent. So they are large. There's a lot of capacity for seating, but they will all fill up in the evening,
especially
every
on the
day,
weekends
and earlier on the weekend days. But that's why get there early. Check out all the tents. They're so amazing. They're all decorated differently. They've all got their own themes, and just get an idea of where you want to be when you do try to find a table. We do have some favorites that we've kind of gone to. And I'm sure we have not been in all of the tents, even considering
we've been in all the big ones,
but we've been in most of the big ones for sure. And I tend to pick them based on the beer, because I like beer, and some of the beer is better than other beers. My favorite is the Augustiner.
Augustiner's good.
And that's a huge tent. That's a 6,000 person tent. Of course, they've got the Oompa bands playing. Everyone's having a good time. But the beer there is served out of wooden barrels, which gives the beer kind of a really
nostalgic taste.
Yeah, it's really good. It's my favorite.
It's oaky.
Of course, the Hofbrau tent, another huge tent.
It's probably one of the most popular tents, just because Hofbrau is such a big name around the world.
Hofbrau is.
People have heard of that beer, even though the other beer is Paulaner and Löwenbräu everybody's heard of too.
Yeah, that's a pretty popular tent too.
But the thing is, there's ones there like Augustiner and Paulaner examples that people are like, it sounds good, but I've never really heard of it.
Right.
And they're amazing.
Well, there are 6 breweries. You should try them all.
If you can.
But you cannot try them all in one day.
That's hard to do.
You can't drink 6 liters in one day. Well, maybe some people can.
The other thing they have on top of beer tents is they have restaurant tents.
Yeah.
And the restaurant tents, you can actually make reservations, most of them, during the day for lunch, or you could just wait in line and get into most of them, especially if you go like at 2:00 in the afternoon or something, a little bit of an off time. But they do tend to get busy too. So if you know you're going, go ahead and figure out which tent you'd like to eat in and make a reservation, because I think that's a good way to go. They're just getting busier and busier. After COVID, everything is busier and busier, and reservations are becoming much more important overall. The one that we almost always go to is called the Ochsenbretterei.
It is called, I had a hard time with this one. It's called the Hochreiters Hochsenbraterei.
The what one? Say it again.
Hochreiters. Hochreiters Hochsenbraterei.
Anyway.
And it's a good sized tent. I think it holds like 200 to 300 people. It's not massive. Reservations should be made for sure.
They also have oompa bands playing at the restaurant
They
tents.
do, yeah.
And that's where you're going to get the local and delicious food. We like to go to that one because they have the roasted haxen, which is just a melt in your mouth pork candy. It's a big, huge knuckle with the crispy skin. And I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
It's better than bacon.
Juicy, succulent meat inside. It's like rotisserie grilled. So it's always
so good.
Especially if you get one from the bottom layer where all the ones above it are like dripping their juices down below.
And the same
that's
thing,
so good.
They also serve henshin.
Chicken the same way.
Chicken the same way. And
there
that's
are
delicious
a couple of
as well.
restaurant tents devoted to the chicken.
They also have a fish tent, which is amazing.
I love the stick fish.
They have what we call stick fish. I don't know what they're actually called, but we call them
steckerel fish.
Steckerel fish, which is basically stick fish. And basically what they do is they have these alleys of coals, and they have these pikes, and they have skewered the fish, the whole fish on the pike, and then they rotate it a little bit to cook it, and delicious. You don't have to go into a restaurant to have that. You can actually eat it just walking around.
A lot of the beer gardens, you can find those in the beer gardens, or get at a beer garden and bring it in. Yeah.
But I mean, it's hilarious. You look at it and you're like, wow, that's a different kind of fast food, and it's yummy.
Those are probably the steckerel fish, the haxen, and the henshin are
chickens.
Probably like the most common. That's what you're going to eat at the Oktoberfest. Of course, you can also get all kinds of wurst,
all the other kinds of festival
sausages,
food
of course. But the other thing that you can get at the Oktoberfest, and this is also very, very Bavarian, if you haven't had it before, it's a good place to do it, is a Kaiserschmarrn, which is it can be a regular meal, but more often it's like a really good dessert. And it's really just some kind of pancake usually has rum raisins in it. And it's all broken up and torn into little pieces, bite-sized pieces. And they usually serve it with apple sauce. And it's delicious.
And if you want to try it before you come, we have a recipe on our website. So,
oh, yeah, we do.
Yeah.
That's right.
And let me tell you, it is good stuff. And one of the ways we get our grandson to go a lot of places, like they got Kaiserschmarrn.
Yeah, he loves it. He loves it. Okay, so there's 6 breweries. They are Augustiner, probably my favorite. My second favorite is Spattenbrau.
Oh, Spattenbrau. I forgot about Spattenbrau.
I always say Brau, but they're actually Bräu. Hofbräu, of course. Löwenbräu. The Löwenbräu tent is one of my favorite tents from the outside because over the entrance, there's this 4.5 meter tall giant lion sitting up on its haunches holding to scale, liter of beer. And he's roaring like constantly, Löwenbräu.
You gotta get that video.
That's pretty good.
Instagrammable.
That's definitely Instagrammable.
And the Paulaner, what else?
Paulaner, Hacker-Shore.
Hacker-Shore. I always forget about Hacker-Shore. And we've been in that tent a couple of times, actually, Hacker-Shore.
And you don't have to go into like the big beer tent for that brewery. If you can't get in, don't despair. You can find all of the beers at the smaller tents too.
And even as you're walking through the carnival, they're going to be selling them as well.
And all the big tents have beer gardens, which you cannot reserve seats. So you can almost always find a seat in a beer garden if you can't get into a tent. You're not gonna have a hard time with it. Now, I know that somehow over the years, we definitely bought souvenir mugs, but we also ended up with 1 or 2 of the actual mugs that they serve the beer in. And I think in the old days, that wasn't such a big deal,
but they've changed that.
But
you
it
can't
is
do
a
that
big deal
now.
Yeah, you do not want to be caught with
The
the
clear
clear mug that the
mugs.
beer was served in, that you think, oh, that's a great souvenir.
Yeah, it's not
Let
like
me take it
Christmas
home.
market mugs. No. If
No.
you're going to buy it, they want you to buy the official yearly
Yeah.
Munich Oktoberfest mug, Krug. And they're gorgeous anyway. They've got artwork on them, and it's a good idea. So,
yeah. And they do sell the other ones too, the ones that you drink out of in the souvenir tents. Just look for those. But they've put a mark on it so that everybody knows that it's not one that you're stealing. And you used to be able to buy a beer and walk around with it and like sit up on the grass hill and watch everybody. I don't think you can do that as much. They kind of frown on you taking it out of the tent at all or out of the beer garden at all. But it's not such a big deal. But certainly don't try to leave the grounds with it. And I think the first Oktoberfest I went to, I can remember paying at the time, it was like 6 Deutschmarks, because it was before the euro, which was like $2 for a liter of beer.
It's a little bit more expensive now.
If you bought a beer like outside of the Oktoberfest at that same time in a restaurant, you'd probably pay, well, you wouldn't often buy a full liter.
You would never.
But it would cost about anywhere between 50 cents to $1 for a beer in a restaurant. So it was a little bit more, but you also got a lot more beer. It was a full liter. So it's comparable. But nowadays, that same liter of beer is going to be between 13 and 16 euros, depending on which tent you're in and
but
which
you don't
beer
need
you're
many
drinking.
of them. So just remember that.
Yeah. And no, that does, like we said, that does not include keeping the mug.
Absolutely not.
So the beers, I think it's a little bit pricey, but it's worth it. And the party is worth it. The other good thing about the beer is each of the breweries brews their own specific Oktoberfest beer. So you might think you know what a Lowenbrau tastes like, or a Hofbräu, or a lot of people have had Polaner. That's gained a lot of popularity internationally. But until you go to the Oktoberfest, you have not had the Oktoberfest beer, and it's brewed special each year.
And they do actually export it.
They do. You can buy Oktoberfest beer specific.
You can, but of course, exported beer is always a little bit different than straight from the Foss, straight from the tap. So just know that. It's better. It's just always better. It's fresh.
Okay, what else do we need to talk about for first timers?
I think one of the questions people ask is, what do you wear? First of all, we already told you the weather is usually pretty nice. And if you're going to go during the day, you're probably going to be, fine in just regular clothes, maybe a light sweater or a sweatshirt or something. If it does get a little bit chillier, don't bring a umbrella. But if you have a raincoat, if it threatens to rain, you'll be covered that way. But that's when you want to just make sure you get there early enough to go find a place to sit and just hang out all day, because it's fun anyway. But a lot of people are wearing, and the Germans especially have gotten more and more into this over the years. When we first went, the only people wearing dirndls and lederhosen were the waiters and waitresses and the Oompa bands and things like that. The people who are working at the festival. Nowadays, a lot of people will buy it, and you will see Trachtenboden stores all up and down the streets in Munich, where you can go buy one yourself if you want to do that. And it's cute. They're great. They're fun clothes to wear, but don't feel like you have to do that. No. It is certainly nowhere near a requirement. And even though a lot of people are doing it, a lot of people will buy cheapy little fake ones, and a lot of it runs the gamut. Because
the real ones are pretty pricey.
They're so expensive.
We're talking like artisan leathercraft for the lederhosen especially.
Well, I think you could spend at least $500 on one outfit. Right.
And if you're just going to the Oktoberfest where you're going to wear it,
but they do have cheap kind of costumey ones too. They do, which no one's going to look down on you if you want to buy those. They're still fun.
Yeah, they are.
Or you know what? You don't have to wear it at all.
Don't have to wear it at all.
It's just fine. So I think people get caught up in that a lot, and you don't have to. Of course, the Instagrammers, they want to look cute, so they're going to do it. That's
Yeah.
up to them.
Yeah.
So what to wear? Again, we've said it ad nauseum. Go as early as possible.
Early in the day.
Because you're going to have a little bit better experience regardless.
For sure.
If you can scope out a place.
It is a huge festival area. So there's a lot of walking, and there's a whole area of it that's not really got anything to do with the beer tents and all of that. And that's like all carnival rides and carnival games and all the stuff you would find at a typical German festival. Different foods like the chocolate covered fruits, the roasted nuts, the sugar roasted nuts, wurst stands, all that stuff. And of course you can get a beer there as well. Lots to do. You could definitely spend a couple of hours just going through that area. The rides tend to get a little pricey, so be prepared for that. Although if you pay the €4 to go into the Oktoberfest that we were talking about earlier, all of the rides in that area are only €1.50. So yeah, you paid €4 to get in, but the rides are a lot cheaper. So that's pretty cool.
Regardless of when you go or what you do or how you get there or what you wear, I'm telling you, the Oktoberfest is just one of those things that I think
everybody should do.
Person should do. If you come to Germany, you should do it. If you live here, you should definitely do it.
Definitely.
But it's just a good time. It really is. And Munich's a wonderful city. There's so much to do in that city. If you come for a week, you wouldn't even have to leave. But if you do leave, there's things to do.
Bavaria is a beautiful state. So yeah.
Castles. Oh my. Anyway,
sure.
Good stuff.
In the Alps.
Prost. Have a good time at the Oktoberfest.
All right. Thanks for listening to this episode of Streets and Eats. If you liked what you heard, please show us some love, hit the like button, and leave us a review. Maybe even subscribe so you don't miss any future podcasts. Also, we'd love it if you joined us on our Facebook private group, Streets and Eats, where we just have an ongoing conversation about all things travel. Ciao for now.